Hi, Christian Thom here. New York City has long been hailed as the cultural capital of the United States, from its vibrant nightlife to its museums and galleries, from its delicate panoply of exotic subway aromas to the mysterious fluids that wash up on our streets, like so many immigrants looking for freedom. One thing you can say about New York, it is the premier city for stand-up comedy in America, not counting Chicago and Los Angeles, and the best of the best headline here at Gotham Comedy Club. Comedian Jim Mendrinos is the man who literally wrote the book on comedy. In his career, he's performed for over 100,000 complete idiots. And now, he's here to share that experience with you. You've told me that when you were starting off, Sam Kinison grabbed you by the scruff of the neck and said, "This is how you write a joke."
Yeah. You know, it was amazing because the construction was there, but what was missing was me. You know, and I would just go and I'd put the jokes there and I'd do them as written, which is exactly what you don't want to do when you're writing a joke. You want to have your personality in there, and his exact quote was, "Get your fucking personality in the line," which was something that took me years to really internalize and fix. But it's the difference between saying something by rote and saying something from the heart. When every comic starts, there's a filter in their mind that says, "I can't say that. I can't talk about that." And what he did was basically help me take away that filter, which I think lets your own personality come out quicker, and it's your own personality that forms your character as a stand-up. I know I don't even really look like a comedian. I look more like a cross-country driver who kills hookers in truck stops. I know this. Either that or I look like your high school English professor who used to look at you a bit too longingly sophomore year, but we all have our crosses to bear, my friends.
Now, I've heard Woody Allen say this. You never consciously try to create a persona. It's only your natural personality.
Yeah, it never works.
Right?
Well, I shouldn't say never, it does. If you're gonna be a dedicated, solid, comedic character like Steve Martin, where he was doing that over-the-top, absurdist kind of humor, or a Rodney Dangerfield who perfectly crafted this loser character, then you can sit there and go, okay, yeah, here's how I dress for that character, here's how I do this for that character. But a great stand-up, and I'm not talking the good ones, I'm talking the great ones, are the ones that have a life on stage. You know a myriad of their emotions and not just one or two things they say. If you remember back to Eddie Murphy, his first stand-up special, and he had bits that were, angry, and he had bits that were dirty, and he had bits that, pure joy. And when you look at all the character comics, they play one note.
Yeah.
And, it's the exceptional performer that can play one note. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Little question. How come whenever we can't fall asleep, we all wind up doing the same stupid thing? We all stare at the alarm clock. Then we'll say things like, if I fell asleep right this very second, I could get 4 hours and 22 minutes worth of sleep. Snooze alarm goes off, you will smack the hell out of it. Then just lay in bed and justify why you should be allowed to stay there. You're like, I won't shower. I won't shave. Fuck it, I'll call in sick. For me, and I'm sure you've had this, you're performing, you see another comic performer, they do something similar and or exact.
And then you can't do that joke, or you're so mad that they did that joke.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, if somebody does the same joke, I wrote a really crappy joke. But when you inject your personality into it and you inject what you believe is funny about it, I should be writing stuff that's so original.
You can't copy it.
Yeah. And if you haven't been to Montreal, you got to go. You know why? Because everyone in Montreal is gorgeous. Man, woman, everyone. Which is amazing, because not more than 40 miles away from there in Plattsburgh, New York, the ugliest fucking human beings I have ever seen. No, really, there are supermodels grazing alongside the highways of Montreal. And meanwhile, just frightening people. Frightening people. Here's how good looking they are in Montreal. I was reasonably sure they were not going to allow me in the city. That's how good looking they are. I was positive I was going to get there and they'd be like a Mountie, like, "Monsieur, where you going?" Montreal. You? No. You go to Plattsburgh. You know, I started when I was 19. I'm 42 now. You know, the stuff I was doing at 19, 20 would look so bad coming from my mouth at this point, you know, and that's the bottom line. Eventually, what you wrote, which was the truth for you then, becomes a lie. Well, that's why you don't want to set your persona. You want to let who you are at the moment define who you are on stage. You have to understand that everything has to evolve.
Weird shit happens to your body as you get older. Like the other day, I yawned and I threw my back out. How miserably out of shape am I that yawning is now a strenuous activity? Consult physician before yawning. Oh, just weird stuff. You know when I knew I was getting older, I could tell you the exact moment. I was laying on the couch and my leg fell asleep and I just didn't even bother to wake it up. And then like, I ain't got no plans, you just do what you want to do. I am tired of being the boss of you.
You've got to evolve and you got to, you know, constantly take an inventory of who you are as a human being right now. And unless you're doing a character like a Rodney Dangerfield, you know, it's hard to make that lie seem real to the audience. And you'll lose an audience very quickly if you don't evolve your material and let the material and your humanity meet together to define your persona. When we talk as stand-ups, we can't paint a dry picture. The audience is drunk. You know, we play, at least on the club level, in front of a bunch of people who are drunk, they're distracted because they're there with dates, you know, they're...
And our job is to get them drunker.
Yeah.
And then to send them into their cars.
It's the only art form in the world with a 2-drink minimum.
Yeah.
You know, Picasso didn't have a 2-drink minimum. You're not going to the Louvre and having a couple of scotches just here.
You guys have been a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night.